Welcome to my Just Jenny podcast. I love this guest today, Jennifer Cohen, who goes by Jen, the real Jen Cohen on Instagram. We met years ago. I don't know which year on my SiriusXM show. I was trying to look through my emails to see if something would come up, like an email exchange as to when, and I couldn't find one, which means it had to be really far back that she was on my show. But she's an entrepreneur, a brand builder, a podcaster, an educator. She's written 4 books in the health and wellness and motivational space. She interviewed Keanu Reeves when she was 17 with like some stunt. It's such a funny story, which she then did in a TEDx talk, which is adorable. And now is here because her newest book, Bigger, Better, Bolder, Live the Life You Want, Not the Life You Get, just came out a few weeks ago. And it's terrific. Just easy advice to follow, real doable things, and nothing woo-woo, nothing weird. And I like that because there's enough woo-woo and weird. We don't need anymore. So Jen, welcome to my show.
Hallelujah to that. I mean, Can I tell you something? I wish I could be more woo-woo, but I'm not a woo-woo kind of person.
Yeah.
And even though woo-woo is really in right now and it's super hot with hashtags and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I have to believe there is a piece of the world who still is not like woo-woo and want like hard, concrete, solid, practical things to do to get from point A to point B.
I think that's the most helpful. And you actually do that on your Habits and Hustle podcast as well.
I try.
Yeah, but I think you do because I've listened, and when you have a guest on, like you kind of get into how they got from A to B, which I think we're all looking for a roadmap, and not a roadmap in the sense that like we're going to do everything that you did. Like I'm going to find me a Keanu Reeves to interview and to track down and to sort of do that kind of thing. At this age, it'd be freaking weird, but just that element of being unafraid and taking that risk, that idea that you kind of run with, that
you're talking about a whole thing I talk about, and which is it's one of my pillars in life and in the book is I always would prefer to be rejected than to have regret.
Yeah.
Rejection to me is so much better than regret in the long run, right? Because, right? Rejection, you have it hurts, it stings, but you eventually get over it pretty quickly. While regret stays with you forever. Like you'll always think, what if I did that? If I did that, maybe this would have been different. And like, it's always one of those gut wrenching feelings that you always will go back to. It could be 20 years later. There are things that I wish I tried, I wish I did, but it's too late now. Because the one thing that we don't get back is time.
Yeah.
Right. And rejection, something stings, but then you kind of move on. So I like to give people that type of analogy because like, if you're so afraid and too scared and don't have the courage or feel the bravery to do something, think about how you would feel 10 years down the road if you might have tried it and it would have taken you down a trajectory or a path that you never knew.
You're totally right. I mean, because we ruminate about that stuff and we're like, oh, if only I did this, if only I said that, if only I asked for the following. Yeah.
Right. And like, again, like, and not to say it will work out necessarily for you, because that's not even the purpose sometimes. I mean, at the time it is, but it's also about just that it's the feeling that at least you tried. I think that's the thing. Like if you put the effort and try, you don't ever have that feeling of what if later on, which is, in my opinion, like I said, the worst feeling to live with.
Let's go back to the Keanu Reeves story, only because I feel like it started you on a trajectory of understanding that you had to at least try to do something that was unthinkable to accomplish. Like it is such a good story.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, what's funny? I was 17 when I did that. Right. But I will say, because I use that story as my point about that was my kind of pivotal moment where I knew that boldness was the secret sauce to success. Because I was so bold to do what I did by waiting for him and asking him to help me with what I wanted to, with the a demo tape so I could be a VJ on, MTV or
Basically, he was at a press thing. You knew he was
no,
going to.
he was doing a play.
Oh, he was there doing a play when you
Yeah.
accosted him?
So I accosted him when he just finished Speed.
So good.
And he was like at the peak of his career, and he came to Canada. I'm Canadian, and he wanted.
As if I didn't know from the accent.
I know, it's kind of obvious.
So good.
Right? And he came to Canada because he always had these, he always wanted to do Shakespeare. So he figured he would do his kind of work out his acting chops in Canada, in Winnipeg, where I was living. And I had this, idea that he would be my dream ticket to getting the dream job I wanted, right? Because I knew that, because back then it was a very coveted position to be a VJ, which is for those of you who are in the era of the 90s and whatever, these, what's his name? Carson Daly, these kind of people that video disc jockeys.
Huge deal.
But who's going to watch it if I'm just some random Yahoo, kid from Winnipeg? So I knew if I had a really killer demo with something like that, it would be watched and taken more seriously. So I had this idea that I was going to ask Keanu Reeves to be my demo tape. And everyone laughed at me, thought I was the craziest person in the world and so naive and stupid, and I didn't listen to those naysayers. I went outside, I waited for him in the minus 45-degree weather with a tundra and wind chill of God knows how much. And eventually he came out. I basically asked him, I went through the crowds of people and I tugged on his shirt and I basically asked him to help me. And even though he was confused and off put for a moment, it was too many people around. He told me I could give him my number and he'll call me. And I went to school the next day. I told my friends, and lo and behold, one day went by, no one called me. 2 days, 3 days. On the fourth day, my mom asked me if I listened to my answering machine, and I was like, no, I just got back. And she's like, well, you should go listen to it. And lo and behold, he's arguing with my mom on the phone. When you answer the phone, in the last ring, my mom,
and it records, and then the whole conversation is on the voice machine.
Yes. Exactly. And all you hear is hello. My mom's like, hello. And you hear this guy being like, hello. And then my mom and him are going back and forth for
it's so good.
5 minutes. And then eventually my mom hangs up on him. He calls back and then he's like, I think we got disconnected, but this is Keanu Reeves. I'm calling for Jennifer. I met you, blah, blah, blah. And then cut to 5 days later, he's at my house. My mother made him some lunch. I picked him up in my mom's Cutlass Supreme.
Unreal.
Pulled him to my house. I made the audition tape and sent it in, and I got an audition, and that led to a whole, I didn't get the job.
Doesn't
but
matter.
It wasn't about the job. It was about what it taught me. But I will say, before I even did the Keanu Reeves thing, I was already flexing my bold muscle, so to speak, right? Because I was doing these little things a lot where I saw a positive return. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of gave me a little more confidence to do that, the bigger thing. So what I talk about a lot in my book is you don't have to be born bold. Being born bold is actually most of us are not. But it's something that you could work on and harness and get better at with practice by doing these little bold moves all the time and getting better and doing these little things. If you're not comfortable asking for a little thing, you're never going to be comfortable asking for a big thing.
Right.
So you might as well get comfortable by doing these little asks, a little bold things to get you ready. And it's like anything else. I think boldness is a skill, like anything else, that you have to work on and you got to harness and practice. And if you don't use it, it atrophies like any other muscle in your body. And you get stronger and you maintain it by doing it for life, really.
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that to me with the Keanu story was really at that point, this taught me that it's not about how pretty you are or how rich you are or how talented you are or how smart you are. Mm-hmm. It's about those who make the ask, make the move, who do it, who go for it. Because it's very easy to count yourself out without even trying.
Yeah.
Because you can overthink of all the things that you're not.
Constantly. Yeah.
Right. And it's the people who don't give a shit and they just go anyway.
Yes, that's exactly but you're right. It is those people. It's almost like someone like you, in a sense, doesn't have that thing that says, "Oh, be careful. Like, don't do it, because if
Right.
it doesn't work, you're going to feel this." Like,
Right.
my ego has always gotten in the way, or my like low self-esteem issues have always gotten in the way. Like, oh, I can't ask for that, because if someone says no, that'll decimate me. And then what? And that's the silly part, because the then what is exactly nothing. You just got to know. Like, so.
Well, that's the way I look at it. I say a couple different things to that, which are, even if you have a low self-esteem and you talk your reasons why, all the reasons why you shouldn't do something and can't do something, do it anyway.
Yeah.
Don't wait until you feel like it.
Yeah.
You should do it even when you don't.
Yeah.
And while you're doing it, you get the confidence, and that's that's actually when you build the confidence, right? Because let's face it, most of us have insecurity and self-doubt. There's a very small percentage of us who just feel like, I can do anything. I can conquer the world. If you just wait until you're ready, you're never going to do it.
Right.
We're almost never ready, right? Like, do you think I'm ready to work out every morning at 8:00 when I'm tired and I'm like, I haven't slept properly, I haven't eaten properly? No. Most of the time, I don't feel like working out. Most of the time, I have a million other things I'd rather do, but I don't let myself wait until I feel like it. I do it anyway because it's a habit that I've honed, and it's part of my ritual and day-to-day habits.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with like being bold or anything you want to be good at.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you know that I have the exercise every day? I have to get at least 10,000 steps every day. Like, that's my baseline for living because of my mental health. Like, that is really important for my brain to feel well. I need like that coding or whatever happens when you work out. I need that on my brain in order for it to function. But on the days that I don't want to move, that I just want to stay in my bed, or I just want to sit on my ass, I will actually, in the moment of putting my sneakers on, tying my laces, be saying, I am not doing this. I am not getting on the treadmill. I refuse to work out while I'm walking to the treadmill. Literally, that's what's happening, because I know I have to get myself on there even if I don't want to. Like, it's that same thing, because it's a habit. I'm not motivated to do it. I just know I have to do it.
100%. You can't wait to be motivated to do anything because motivation wanes. Sometimes you're motivated. Sometimes motivation is not a big enough indicator for me. Yeah. Like, I believe it has to be self-discipline that you have to be relying on, where it's like part of like brushing your teeth, like getting up in the morning, brushing your hair. Like,
that's right.
It's one of these things that it has to happen because you like the byproduct of what happens afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Like, that to me is where what we're trying to get to. We want to get to that place where it's just another thing that you kind of don't count yourself out before trying. Should be one of those things.
So this book, Bigger, Better, Bolder, Live the Life You Want, Not the Life You Get, I feel like is almost, it's almost like the next level in your whole journey and your whole thing, because you were so entrenched in fitness, right? And wellness from like a body, I don't want to say body beautiful, but like body healthy kind of. I mean, the aesthetics matter, but still like a health and wellness place, and like strong. What was it? Strong is the new skinny,
strong
or stronger?
Is the new skinny.
Yeah, love that.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that. I was going to say something about that. So like both of these, No Gym Required was another book I did.
Right.
What's really important for me is not just to like write something for the sake of writing something, but all of these things have a through line, which is a message that's way a bit bigger than just kind of like it's more of a mantra for life, right?
Yes.
Like, when I did Strong is the New Skinny, it's because not everybody could be skinny, but everybody could be strong.
That's right.
Right? So focus on a goal that's achievable and attainable, because that's what's going to empower you. That's what's going to build your self-confidence. And so when we start from a place of like, it's never going to happen, because quite frankly, no matter how much I work out and starve myself, I'm never going to be a size 0. It's not going to happen. My body type's not that way, right?
Neither. Yeah. No.
Right.
No shot.
So, right. So, and most people are like that. So
Yeah.
why start at a place where it's completely not even attainable?
Yeah.
So that's why the stronger the new skinny, because it's something everybody could be stronger if you just, if you work on it. Same with being bold. Everybody could be bolder if they just work on it. If they just harness that muscle and practice and be consistent. Like, no gym required. Everybody can be fitter and more healthy without going to a gym. I try to give people in my life, I really try to impact people in a way meet them where they are in a way that's readily available to you, right? That's easily attainable. This is not rocket science.
No.
It's all about just like reframing what's possible. And with that, then like reframing that and then acting on it. And these things make a massive difference in your life. They accumulate.
Yeah. Let me go back to your beginnings, because when I think of you and when I had reached out to your PR team to book you on this podcast, we have like these memories that flash into our heads, and like all I could think about was sneakers. And I'm still like, I need to go back to when you were making sneakers and why, and were they weighted sneakers? Was that what it was? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's coming back to me, Jen.
Yeah.
And you were so lovely and sweet and helpful and kind. And I just remember you telling me you wanted to send me sneakers, and then you did. And the thing is, follow through is one of those things that if somebody doesn't follow through, I don't care what you do with me or nobody has to send me, offer me, give me, talk to me, be around me. I don't care. But don't tell me that you're going to do X, Y, and Z and then don't do anything. It is that's like one of those character traits or character defects that I can't stand, because follow through to me is like, good follow through to me is the sign of decent character. Otherwise, just don't offer, right? Which is fine. But you were so like, I want to send you shoes. Here's what I need. Can you just give me your address? You were packing them up out of your house for some reason.
Yes.
I don't know how you had sizes in your house, but okay, you did. And they were really cute. So what is that story? Like, why you were in fitness? Explain how you got to making sneakers.
Okay, so this is that's hilarious. And by the way, that is probably why you and I like click, because I think you and I have a very similar value system, right? One of my biggest pet peeves in the world is people's lack of follow through. I find it to be abhorrent.
It's disgusting.
It says so much about someone's like character.
Yes.
It is something that it's one of my biggest pet peeves. And unfortunately, the majority of people have zero ability to follow through.
It's so strange. I don't understand. It just don't offer. Like, I'm not going to tell you I'm going to do something unless I'm going to do it.
Exactly. 100%.
And that's fine. I'm not going to tell you I'm going to run a marathon, because I'm not. I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to go out to dinner and stay out at a club till 1:00 in the morning with you, because I'm not.
Because you're not. Exactly.
Right. But if I say to you, I'm going to send you a sweatshirt, I'm going to send you a fucking sweatshirt.
You're singing my song. I agree, 100%.
So how did the sneakers, what were you doing up before the sneakers that got you to the sneakers?
Yeah.
And then how'd you get to here? Yeah.
So, it's interesting because my career has been very, like, it looks like it's very ziggy zagged, and it looks like a bad Rorschach test because it has no rhyme or reason to anything. I started out in the sports world, ended up in the music world, ended up in the fitness world. The truth of the matter is, I'm good at very little, but whatever.
That's not true. Yeah.
I know, I swear, I really am good at very little. But there's a couple of skills that I've been able to hone that have been they've been transferable. I can transfer those skills to whatever I did, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And one of them is being very persistent and like going at gusto speed. And if I have an idea that I'm excited or passionate about, I'll just go for it, being bold. And I figure it out as I go. So I got to the shoes because if you really want to know the truth,
I do.
I was working at a record label,
Which
and
one?
I was at the time I was at Sony.
Okay.
And what happened was I was recruited to go. I was at BMG actually in Canada. Sony I got a job offer to come here to LA, and I was doing great. And the music world was really switching and changing. It was becoming a whole different world. And I'm like, I was here on a visa, and I was like, okay, well, I don't want to go back to Canada. It's cold. I want to stay here in LA. I need to figure out how to do this. So I'm like, well, I'm going to become a trainer in the meantime, because while I'm a trainer, I can then like figure out how to do this whole visa thing, because I can maybe make money under the tables, training people. I was
Of
always
course.
very interested in fitness and act as a hobby.
Yeah.
I was active. I always rode my bike everywhere. I was super active. And so that's what I did. And while I was doing it, I realized, hey, I do have these transferable skills. I know how to like do certain things. I worked at a record label. What if I just like go back to the record labels, but do it in a different way, not in marketing, but I'll do it like in the training world.
Yeah.
So I pitched myself to one of the heads of a label. I'm like, listen, I know how the money works here. I know this. I know how the talent is. What if I become a trainer, and basically you could put me on retainer? I can get paid from the label,
and I train the performers,
and I train the people. And like, if in that way I can stay in the country because I'm on a visa, and, I'll be cheaper than you would otherwise have to pay, because I'm forced to work for you. And so therefore, he's like, what do you know about training? You're like this person. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, now I'm this person. Like, I'm like, don't pigeonhole me. Don't say that I'm only that person.
Yeah.
I think you'd be more than one thing, and I'm like, just because I was that person, I was able to create this other potential person.
Yeah.
Give me a shot. And the guy was like, this girl is so persistent and cuckoo. All right, I'll give her a shot.
Yeah.
And that led to me becoming a label trainer, which then put me put me into a whole different category or box. So now I'm in the fitness box.
Yeah.
And I started training a bunch of celebrities and artists and whatever else. And one label turned into 2, turned into 5.
This is crazy. Yeah.
Right. And then I became like, back then we didn't have social media, but I became like an influencer in the fitness space in real time. Right.
Yep.
Because I would wear the clothes, and then the people who would see me on the clothes, but like the artists, and then like, let's say Nike would give me a bunch of stuff. They would look at it. They're like, I like those shoes, Jennifer. And then, they would wear the Nike shoes.
Yeah.
Right? So I was like a conduit kind of to other people.
Yeah.
And from that, I became like a known fitness person, which I was like, okay, here I go. Now I'm doing this. I pivot. And then from that, I got a record deal. And then I saw a record deal. I
learned to sing. Yeah, go on.
I got a book deal. Sorry, my first book deal. And I called it No Gym Required. And from that, I thought that would be a really good brand to kind of have as an umbrella, because I figured that, truth be told, most of the stuff I did with artists was never equipment based. It was like body weight stuff, and they were getting really, really fit. And I realized you don't need to have an expensive gym, or you don't need to go to a gym to be fit. So, working on like just a time saver and a money saver, just like work on your own stuff without using equipment. And then from there, I thought my first product would be this shoe, because then you can wear the weights on your feet.
Right.
And then you're basically burning 25% more calories, because you are wearing the weights on your feet. And that was my first product, called the NGR shoe, No Gym Required shoe.
Yes.
And that's when you met me, because I was hustling those shoes.
What year was that? What year?
It was 2010.
That's exactly right. That totally tracks.
Yeah. And then that's how it happened. And
that's amazing. Because
I sold a shit ton of those shoes.
I'm sure you did. I mean, because you were ahead of the game, because that whole concept of a gym you don't need, or things you can sort of take with you. Now everybody does that. Now it's all like the bands and the ropes and the things you could put in your car, like anything small, like a movable stepper. But then nobody really did that.
Nobody
it was
did it.
Right.
It's so funny you say that because I feel like and also with like a lot of different things that I would do, I always felt like I was a little bit too ahead of it, where it never like became like massive until like 3 or 4 years, 5 years later, and someone else got the credit for it.
Yeah.
But that's like a whole other podcast.
Yeah,
But
no, I know. That thing is a really infuriating feeling, and
exactly.
it's, it's real. That feeling, and I think it's probably accurate for many things, but whenever I think like that, or it goes to that like regret conversation, better to be rejected than to regret something. Like that was part of what you had to do to get you to here.
Yes. And I think that like I'm not like so hard done by, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
like, and at the end of the day, this I don't know at the time how the dots connect together at the end, but they usually find its way, right? Like that's the thing with like failure though, right?
Yeah.
Like people at the time it feels like the most daunting, horrible thing in the world.
Yeah.
But usually something good will come from it, that something would never, or something never would have happened if
Right.
that other thing would have worked out, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'm a big person. I'm a big reframe person. It's all perspective. It's how
Yep.
you look at something. You can look at something like there are people who look at the glass half full or half empty, right? And it's really on you. Like the onus is really on you, the person, to figure out how you want to like deal with life and what happens to you.
Well, I think there was something else that you talk about that's really important and so smart. This idea of the 10% rule, that like at least like try something 10 times, like keep doing it for a certain amount of time, like try it 10 different times. And if at the end of 10 different times or whatever it doesn't work out, great, move on to the next thing. But chances are something's gonna work out by that point. And like
Even
even
if it
yeah,
doesn't, not to interrupt
yeah,
you, it's even if it's the 10% target is two things.
yeah.
It's about also the practice of doing it over and over again,
So
where
good.
you become desensitized or
Yep.
immune to that feeling, that like that sting of failure,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
the truth is, even if you don't get that thing, usually almost always another opportunity will present itself that you never even knew even existed
So
by
true.
even going through the motions,
So true.
right?
Yes.
Because an object in motion stays in motion. Something stagnant sitting on a couch watching Netflix is going to stay, you know what I mean? Stagnant stays stagnant. Like, I think like some of these concepts are so simple that people overlook them. They
Yeah.
think, oh, it doesn't work because it's too simple. But the
Yeah.
truth of the matter is, there's no magic bullet to anything.
Nothing.
And nothing. And I refuse to just be another person out there, basically hawking a magic bullet when there is none.
There isn't.
The bottom line is the onus is on you to
Yeah.
take responsibility and curate the life you want, design it for how you want it to be, right? Don't rely on other people. Don't rely on someone else to create your own destiny.
Mm-mm.
And and try and keep on trying until you get what you want.
That's exactly right. And even if you have to shift what you want, that's okay.
Yeah. And a lot of times you shift what you want because you learn more about what the thing you really want wasn't what you wanted in the first place.
True. That's true. Okay. So now you make the sneakers, you sell those sneakers, and now it's time to shift to something else. And then along the way, you became a mom.
Yeah, I got two kids. Well, yeah, I got two kids.
You got the two kids. So
I got
like,
the two kids.
yeah. So like, when did that, like, you're on this kind of specific journey in the sense that you knew that it was going to be about you, that the business was always going to be Jennifer Cohen.
No.
Cohen, really?
Not at all. In fact, you're good. You know what? I like you, Jenny, because you're like reminding me a lot of like, this is like a lot of stuff that I work out in my head. Actually, no, that's been my biggest problem.
Yeah.
Is that I've been in this space, is that I've been very, I would say, inconsistent.
Okay.
Because either I put the brand first or I put myself first. So people there's confusion.
Okay, as
When I was
opposed to
doing
you being the brand.
Right. So no gym when I was doing no gym required, I was hawking the brand, but it really was about no gym required.
Interesting.
When I was doing Hot 5, which we haven't even gotten to, which is an app that I sold to Weight Watchers. It was
Yeah.
about Hot 5. Most people didn't even know I was behind it. And then like there were books, and that's a lot of times when I put a book out, people they didn't connect the dots
Yeah.
because I was so busy in the business side of things, not promoting myself as a quote unquote personality.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times the book would get lost because it was like I didn't have the presence as my name.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and that happened to me. Like that's been like my biggest regret because there's been like brand confusion a lot of
That's
times.
so weird because to me the through line is you. But I guess you're right
Because you
because
know me.
right.
So so this is the thing in life, and people should listen if they listen to your podcast, is that a couple things, be very, very specific, because be very conscientious of what you're doing. I've learned all of these mistakes and I teach them now, but it's because people are it's easy to get confused in a world that's very much information just thrown at you constantly. You got to be very deliberate in how you create a brand because of
Totally.
that,
Yeah.
and not confuse things.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. But you also know me, so the people who know. But if you don't know me and all you know is this one thing, right? Then that's all you know. Like, I mean, when I did this TED talk that went viral, and when it was all about what we're talking, boldness, being bold, 10% target, bigger, better, bolder, right?
Yeah.
My book is really like the TED talk on steroids.
Yeah.
But people who only see that only know me for that part of my life.
So yeah.
They
Yeah.
had no idea about the fitness world.
Interesting. Okay, that's
Right?
wild to me because when I guess I don't know what I guess I must have seen it somewhere online about the book when I had reached out, and then I started looking and I was like, wait a minute, I knew her from that incarnation, but from the fitness incarnation, but I didn't know that you had kind of the stuff in the middle and that and I was just like, look at you, like how cool is that you created now what you're doing and your own brand in this book and your podcast and sort of that you really became more what looked like to me what you were looking to do.
Yes, 100%. And this is the net of it, right? And this is part of this is part of a thing that I talk about. It's my message.
Yeah.
Don't let other people basically pigeonhole. I said this earlier, pigeonhole you and tell you what you are.
Yeah.
Because you could be a lot of things. You could be a podcaster,
Yep.
but also be a fitness person. You could be good at multiple things, or your skills that you've harnessed can be transferable and work in a lot of different places. And like, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself. Like there are people in the fitness business who think I'm only good at doing a squat and a lunge,
Yeah.
and don't know that, like, hey, even in the fitness business, I wasn't doing a squat and a lunge. I was creating these big businesses and selling them. But
Wild.
Some people are very myopic and think they see you in one way, and that's how you have to be.
Ugh.
And that's how people keep you down.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be very conscientious of who you surround yourself with. Like
yeah.
And I talk, this is in my book, about building yourself a board of directors around you, people that help elevate you, who support you, who are like-minded, who help you grow.
Yes.
And not see that like myopic tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Because if I talk to you and you're my confidant and I'm riffing with you and I want to do this, and you're like, well, how would you do this? Like, who you? Like,
yeah.
why would you? There's a million other people doing it. Who are you to do it? That bleeds into my psyche.
Yeah.
Right. And then I won't do it.
No. You want people who are going to be your hype people, who are also going to be honest with you, but sort of like I remember years ago, I was saying to my husband, I was frustrated by my job, or I didn't know what I was, at SiriusXM, and I'd come off of doing TV. I'd spent a year like co-hosting a TV show and and I didn't really love TV. I didn't love that experience.
I didn't like TV either.
Yeah, I didn't love it, but it was good money and it was a really cool experience to have, and sort of the bragging rights live on, right?
Right.
But but my husband's like the most supportive partner in everything that I've done. But I said to him, honey, I think I'm going to try to get a job working for local news, for Channel 12 News. And he looked at me and he was like, yeah, no, you're just not. And I was like, what do you mean? I can't do that. He's like, yeah, no, you're just not going to do that. Like, that is the most miserable, ridiculous, wrong thing for someone like you to do.
Right.
No. But he wasn't trying to dampen my spirit.
Right.
He was actually saying, you, I know you, not the right fit. Let's come up with another plan.
Right. He knew you, but you also trusted his opinion.
Yes.
And you knew. But I believe that a lot of times we take advice from people who have no wherewithal to know, what's good for us or not.
That's
and they have no experience in that area.
Yeah.
And then we're using them as our benchmarks for what we're going to end up doing. To me, that makes zero sense in the world.
I agree. So, okay. So now you build an app that you sell to Weight Watchers, which is a huge thing to accomplish. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good deal. I mean, it was a big deal. Like, so like, but my point is, after I did that, it wasn't like, okay, now, I didn't let that be like what I'm going to end up with. What I wasn't going to rest on my laurels with that. Right. Like,
of course,
I'm very curious. I really always was a habit hacker.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to build, I'm like, the podcast wasn't supposed to be a podcast. It was supposed to be a TV show. And I sold this idea called it was not even called Habits and Hustle. It was called Game Changers. And I sold it to NBC. And it was like literally like in like purgatory over there sitting. And I'm like, this is a joke. I'm not going to, a year later, I'm still sitting here. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I'm like, I'll just do this as a podcast and see what happens. And so again, I took ownership of my own life and I basically created the podcast. And all the different opportunities and people and things that I've gotten from that are extraordinary. And it's because I didn't let other people tell me what my future is going to be.
Right. And you took it back. You took back what you could. Yes. That's really cool. And you took a chance doing something you hadn't done before.
100%.
Yeah.
100%, which is extremely what people have to do. And not everyone's great at everything. And so what you do is you find people who are good at the things that you're bad at.
Of course.
And you create this, because like I said, I'm not very good at very many things, but the things I'm good at, I think I'm okay at. And then I find people to help me with my weaknesses.
So you along this way, you end up getting married and having kids. I don't even know that part of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, because it could happen a million ways. Like there's all different family constructs.
No, absolutely.
So, there are people that just choose to have kids on their own, which is great. And people who get married and have kids and some sort of other combination. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was in between, actually it was one of my kids is going to be turning 10 this weekend. And my other one is 7.
Yeah. So you didn't even have kids when I met you.
Nope.
Wow. You're like a different girl.
Wow. Isn't that crazy?
Yes, it is. And I know that because you can't help but be a different girl. And especially women who came from uber fitness. And I don't mean it in a pejorative kind of way that you're only fit and whatever. And you have to work out like crazy. But when your body is part of your business, which yours was because you were a trainer, and then you go down the route of pregnancy and babies and pregnancy again and babies, your body changes. Your body just changes, and your priorities change because they just kind of have to. And nobody's going to lead a life where they don't sometimes take a goldfish off of their kid's plate. It's just, it's just very hard to sort of stay exactly.
It's impossible. I'm going to say it's impossible. Nothing is impossible, but it's extremely difficult.
So you get married. Wow, you have a 10-year-old and a 7. Oh, so cute.
Yeah.
That is really cute.
Isn't that crazy?
My God. Yeah. Boy and a girl?
A boy and a girl.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, so fun.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's not so fun when you are trying to be good at everything, right? And I think
No,
people don't talk about it. I think this whole idea of like balance, oh, balance, balance.
there's no balance. It's
There's
bullshit. It's a
it's
lie.
no such thing. And then
Mm-mm.
we're made to feel bad because we are not we're like really kind of struggling in one of these areas. It's really impossible to be phenomenal at a lot at like a career,
Yeah,
at family. You can be a great mom and a
yeah.
great career woman. Like, I don't know many who actually are doing that exceptional. I don't believe it. I think that you can be really good in one area and then you're flailing in another area.
Yeah, I think you end up
And
flailing everywhere anyway, but I
and then
do,
you end up
yeah,
flailing, I was going to say, or
yeah,
you just end up flailing in both because you have guilt.
yeah. But
And
yeah,
people should just be honest with that, because I think it's giving a really bad message to people. Like, then everyone's feeling extra guilty that they're not doing what that they think everyone else is being good at and they're not, right?
yeah, yeah. I
Like,
mean,
you could like
I did
you
it.
can have it all, but not
Yeah.
at the same time.
No, definitely not. But and that whole concept is a setup to fail because
Hmm.
the have it all idea, like what does that even mean? And I could tell you that as a working mother, like I think it's the best thing you could do for your kids is to show them that in addition to them, that you have other things that make you tick.
Totally.
Because otherwise it's too much responsibility. I feel like when they think that they're literally your whole world. And let's be honest, they are. I mean, I don't function till I have proof of life from both of my kids every morning and every night. I
Yeah.
really, the anxiety is horrific, but they know that I have a life and that they don't have to worry that if they don't call me or spend time with me, and they spend a lot of time with us, but like they know that I got stuff to do.
Right.
And that's really good for them because it takes away, like, they get to go lead their lives. They're supposed to lead their lives and they don't have to worry about their old mommy.
It's funny. You're speaking from a place where your kids are older, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking it down to a place where my kids are small, and from where I see it is, and I get what you're saying, I look at it more like I want my kids to see what it means to work hard
Oh,
and
yeah. Oh, my
to
God. Yes.
have
Oh, yeah.
work ethic
Oh, my
and
God.
being productive
Yeah.
and doing things, because it's very easy in where I live anyway, where that's not the case.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I think it's a shame because a lot of moms who are working, like
Mm-hmm.
working moms who have to work to make a living
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
for God's sakes, are made to feel bad and guilty
Yeah.
because they're not able to go to this school function or go to this thing.
That's,
And it's like, in what world are
yeah.
we supposed to just be all independently wealthy,
Yeah.
where we're all supposed to just be like available to
Yeah.
do everything and anything during the day for our kids? I
Yeah.
don't think that's realistic, and it's not what I want my kids to think.
It's a racket, Jen. It's a
It's a
racket.
it's a whole
Honestly,
racket.
like I went to very, very few like PTA type things.
Yeah,
And
me too.
I
Exactly.
mean, I'd pick up donuts on the way to school for like the snack day. I wasn't baking unless I like was being really nice. I'd bake chocolate chip cookies from scratch, but like honest, I didn't want to. It wasn't like joyful and fun. I wasn't
Right.
the mother
It's an
volunteering.
obligation.
Yeah, I wasn't like, let me work the book fair. It was like, let me not work the book fair.
Right, exactly.
And my two kids both have very strong work ethics. They both knew early on that they were going to, in college, both of them ended up with jobs in college, not because, our goal was to pay for school. Like that was our goal, was if we
Right.
could pay for our kids' education, that would set them up for their lives. Like that was the
Yeah.
thing in our heads. And while they were both in college, my daughter got a job during her junior year. She started working, and then when she graduated, she got a second job. So now she has like two jobs. And my son, who's in law school, when he was in college, was a TA and then was TAing in law school. So like they both, and then he has obviously jobs in the summer, but they both knew you got to work. Like you got, and especially for a girl, like for a girl, I want my daughter to have financial independence. I don't want her to ever feel like she has to rely on somebody else. It's a beautiful thing that she'll one day, God willing, get married and decide to have babies and stuff. But like,
Absolutely. You know what I think for women, for girls, little girls, it's also like a confidence booster, a
yeah,
self-esteem booster when you feel like you have,
hell yeah.
It's like self-efficacy to me is so important. To feel like you are capable,
Yeah.
and that you can do something, and that you can rely on yourself. Not to say you need to with everything, but to know that you have the chops at least a little bit to
Yeah.
be able to, like, I
So
feel
good.
it's such an important thing. And, like, even though listen, I'm not perfect. I feel guilty 98% of the time.
For the rest of your life. Yeah.
Right. And mostly because of the other moms around, but that's besides the point.
Let that go. Let that go. Because you know what?
No,
They're
I know.
looking at you. I promise you, they're looking at you thinking that they're not doing enough. Like the problem with women is there's not enough honest conversation. I have a friend who
Yeah.
is a doctor and busy as could be and working 6 days a week. And she's like, none of the mothers want to be my friend. And I said, it's not that they don't want to be your friend. They don't know what to say to you. They
Right.
lead totally different lives. And when they see you, you're like a mirror to them of what they haven't done. It's not about you. It's never about you. Like, so everyone's doing the other thing to the other side. Like she's looking at them like they don't want to include me because they think I'm a loser. And they're looking at her saying, you don't want to be a part of us because you're too fabulous.
It's so true. And I think what happens is we tend to lose that insight, right? Because we're too mired in what our side is.
Yeah.
And like it goes back to, like, at the end of the day, people are also focused on, like, their shit.
Yeah.
And they're going to be
Always.
projecting whatever it is,
Always. Yeah.
And we have to kind of, like, remember those things when we, like, interact in every way.
That's right. That's compassion. That's leading with compassion to recognize that they're going through maybe a whole thing that we don't know about.
Right.
Yeah.
But I love that you said that. I'm going to remember that too, because it's true. It's like, especially in the last couple of months, I've been so busy with everything. But you're right. Like, I could be that friend of yours, like that mom being like, well, how come they don't want to include me?
Right.
And that is why.
Of course that's why. Are you kidding me? They're busy going out for coffee after drop off. You're busy going to do an appearance because you just wrote Bigger, Better, Bolder and you're promoting your freaking book. Like this is a whole different, or you have a podcast guest. Like they look at you like, we're not going to invite her for coffee because she doesn't want to hang. Like she doesn't want to go. That's what they're thinking. They're not thinking anything more than that. And it is always about themselves. It's never really, when someone doesn't like you, it's usually not, unless you've done something heinous, it's usually not really about you.
Absolutely. That's the point. Almost always, it's never about you.
Right.
Exactly.
So now you get married, you have kids, you launch this podcast.
Yes.
And then when did the TED Talk happen?
The TED Talk happened 3 years ago.
Okay.
2.5.
And was that the first time you talked about the Keanu Reeves story?
Yeah.
So good. I mean, it is so good that, like, it is so good. It's just perfect. And it fits with, like, the who that we know he is.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But at the time when you're a kid, you don't know any of that.
Of course. Right? Yeah.
And I think that people, not everyone, is going to interview Keanu Reeves, but I think there's always a pivotal moment in someone's life where they can either see it as a pivotal moment and go for something, or they just don't want to recognize it. But we all should have a Keanu moment.
Yeah.
Where it kind of sparks something that, like, oh, it's about this, or it's about that, or, okay, I'm going to lean into this now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's just so wholesome too. It's such it's just, he's
wholesome,
calling the answering machine and your mother's answering. And
my mother is like, what are you doing? Why are you calling?
My daughter. My 17-year-old. What is going on here? I love that. So the TED Talk goes crazy. And then you write this book like that. That's a really quick turnaround.
Thank you. Not like that, girl. It took like 2 years.
Oh, okay. So it was, okay.
It was like, people don't understand the book launch process is so hard and demanding and time consuming. It's like literally giving birth.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, to do it well. Right.
To do it right. The book, again, Bigger, Better, Bolder by Jennifer Cohen. It's broken down into these chapters of these actionable things that you can do. The principles, there is, I guess there are 13 or 14. How many principles
16.
are there? There's 16. 16 principles. And each one is really just doable. Like none of them made me feel like I can't do them.
And also, I try to create everything. The book is a very actionable book. It's not about reading and talking from an ivory tower. It's about really doing things that can make a difference and help you get bolder. And there's also a workbook in the back. So
Yeah, I
it's
saw that.
interactive, right? It's like, again, like when I said earlier, it's like I want to, my purpose or what I'm trying to do, if I want to impact in a real way versus in this like very vanilla kind of on the side peripheral way. I want people to really take action, ownership. But at the end of the day, Jenny, you know this, I know this, that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make someone drink or make the horse drink. There has to be a desire, like an element of desire to want something, to need something, to see a change. There has to be an element of self-awareness and insight where you're like, okay, you know what? Like I'm okay in this area of my life, but I really would love to be more bold and stick up for myself or speak up for myself or ask for something in this area. Like we can be bold in some spaces, in some areas, but really need like the extra push in another area. And like I said, like you have to have that desire and want for that. No matter how many books you can read a million self-help books, and if you don't want to actually do the work, and it doesn't matter. You're wasting.
That's true. I mean, you have, but I think a book like this, whether or not you want to have a career or you want to sort of be a go-getter, like you don't have to be. I think this is helpful just for anybody because I think a lot of us have a hesitation to speak some of the time and to ask for what we want in the grocery store. I mean,
in anything, we've been like conditioned to believe that if we speak up and ask for something, that we're being annoying or pushy or rude
or doing the wrong thing.
That we're doing the wrong. So we just like acquiesce to what's in front of us and just take what we get.
Yeah.
And you won't. How many times people have asked me when I've done interviews, it's like, well, what's the difference between being bold and being pushy or bitchy or like. And I'm like, the difference is that we have to we got to change the way we see the fact that you see boldness.
Yeah, as bitchy, right?
The fact that you see boldness is something that's like contrary or we shouldn't have. Like, where is it said that we're not allowed to be outspoken about things that are important to us? Should we just like, if you go to a restaurant and they bring you the wrong meal, you should just eat it because, it was their mistake? Or do you say, excuse me, this is the wrong meal? Or like, why can't you say, I ask for the dressing on the side? If you don't like the dressing, like to me, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Correct.
And like, if you're polite and nice and kind about it, why not? And like, again, you don't know what you don't know. I had a friend of mine who read this book, not a friend, like a
acquaintance.
Like a person who like someone who followed me on Instagram.
Right? I call them I call them follow friends.
Follow friends, like an online friend.
Yeah, like you go back and forth. You DM.
Right. And they basically had like an early copy of the book.
Oh,
and what they did was they tried this thing out where they would for a bit they would and this is I guess they heard it on a podcast, but they basically did this thing for a few weeks where they went around asking for like a discount.
Wow.
Of everywhere they went.
Yeah.
And like 8 out of 10 times they got a discount.
It's incredible.
Because like people don't know what they don't know. Or like you just like sometimes people are like so taken that like they're surprised. Like, oh yeah, we have this local discount. Here's 10% off. Or like, oh yeah, like I'm going to call my cell phone provider and like, oh yeah, there's a plan that actually saves you $100 a month. But if you don't even like apply it or like try, you never know what's out there for you.
That's right. But what you just said about the bitchy versus like that bold versus bitchy in the language that people have, it's
or
so
assertive or whatever the word is.
Yeah, but it's so true because like even today because I'm doing this show, I go out and get my guests. Like I reach out, I'm emailing producers that used to email producers and talent departments at SiriusXM, and I didn't have to interface with anybody. And I'm now reaching out to either a producer of someone's podcast or show or their PR rep and go right. And so I had found somebody's rep. and I sent an email like, hi, we may have worked together when I was at SiriusXM because I've interviewed your client before. And I know that they're doing press for this next project, and I would really like to talk to them for X, Y, and Z reasons. And the email didn't get responded to. And this was like 3 days ago. So today I sent a follow up that just said, like, pushing to the top of your inbox because, like, maybe they missed it. And the person wrote me back the nicest thing, like, thank you for pushing to the top of my inbox because I've been traveling and it got buried. And, like, I don't know that I'll get the guest or I won't, but I was so happy that she understood what I was doing, that I wasn't trying to be annoying or pushy or whatever. I'm just trying to get the damn job done. And that's something that men never hesitate to do. They'll email, they'll call, they'll text, they'll email again.
But and it's looked upon as being
a go-getter.
A go-getter.
Yeah.
And like, good for them. They have grit and they have hustle and blah, blah, blah. But if a girl does it, it's like, God, she's so like pushy or like crazy or like chill.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, but like the negative connotations are just so unbelievable to me.
Not great. Frankly. So I'm gonna leave people on the following because this is audio. I do put the video up on Patreon some of the time, but if you're listening to this, you don't get to see Jen's arms. She has like the greatest arms of anybody ever. Like just it's absurd. So just because you know she's somebody who got to accomplish that, you need to get bigger, better, bolder. But it's really cool what you have created, and your podcast Habits and Hustle is really also good and impactful because you do get to talk to and we get to hear from people who have like done the thing they set out to do and the ways in which they got it done, which is always to me interesting. I like to see people succeed and how they got there. So you guys have to check that out. Jen can be followed at The Real Jen Cohen on Instagram. Do you have a TikTok as well?
Yeah. And it's TikTok, The Real Jen Cohen. I'm on the LinkedIn. I'm on all the platforms, girl. Gotta be these days. Unfortunately, that's the part of the job.
I know. I'm just so not good at any of it, but I try. I show up anyway.
You show up anyway. Exactly.
I do.
It's
Thank
effort,
you.
Effort.
Got to do it. Thank you for being on my show. You guys follow me on Instagram at Just Jenny Hutt. I'm on TikTok at Jenny Hutt and Twitter at Jenny Hutt. And per usual, I will be back here tomorrow. And tell your friends about the pod.